and welcome to Best in Fest. I'm Leslie Lepage, the director of the La Femme International Film Festival, and this is a podcast for people who are interested in advancing their career in television and film and learning the dirty little secrets of Hollywood. Today, I have a wonderful guest, Emily Evan Rae, who actually is a wonderful actress who has now reached into her creativeness and spread her wings into being a multifaceted artist, being a producer, actor, director, but she started her career at the age of 5 as an actor, and she directed her first film at the age of 18. So you've always had this, inside you, where she took the really huge task of telling the stories of the Parkland school shooting into this unified concept, directing, producing, and editing this documentary on this really horrific thing. But let's start, I think, at the beginning. So you started off as a child actor and had huge success on some of these wonderful shows. So talk about that and how, when you were in high school, you still had this driving force of wanting to direct.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started off, I actually was from Parkland, Florida originally, which is the interesting part. I started off modeling in Florida, and then I traveled and moved to California when I was really, really young. But I've been acting really my whole life. I was accidentally moved to California after I started getting jobs here and there, and all of a sudden turned out I was there full time. When I was there, I got jobs on really amazing shows where I was able to learn so much from, being on set on shows like The Office, Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Parenthood. I was surrounded myself with people who are so well versed in the business and who know so much, and soaking all that in at such a young age was such an amazing experience for me to have growing up to becoming a director, for sure, because I learned so much behind the camera. I learned so much from being in front of the camera that transitioning into being a director when I grew up and went to high school and post high school starting to do this, it just felt natural for me to fall into that because I'd seen it so many times again and again. And telling stories is just something that I love to do. And so telling it as an actor, telling it as a director, regardless, I wanted to do it.
Let's cut to, you've had this wonderful experience, and I understand I'm a parent of a child actor, so I've got a 13-year-old that's been acting since he was 4. So I get that whole
how
life,
it is.
right? Yeah, I do. And now he's writing songs and he's writing short stories and poems. So I think, once you have that seed of that artist in you, it's just really how far you expand your wings. Okay, but you're now in high school, and we're going back in time. You're now in high school
at this point of the story,
and this horrific event happens. Mm-hmm. And how did that come about, where you said, I really have this urge to tell this story on a more mainframe platform of a documentary?
So it was quite interesting because, like I said, I grew up in Parkland, so I knew the area. I moved away before I can go to any of those schools. But growing up, my mom was a teacher in Parkland. My father worked, out there as well as a police officer. And so he was actually there in the hotel with all of the families in the staging area, waiting for them to find out what had happened. So I heard his story. I knew a lot of the stories that were coming out of there. And it really touched me. For months afterwards, it was really hard for me to let it go. I just couldn't. Every single time I was just found myself thinking about it, having my heart go out to them. And at some point I was just God, I'm so far away. What can I do? And I realized my job and something that I love to do and something that I'm good at is telling stories. So why don't I help tell theirs? Why don't I use my abilities to help amplify the voices of these parents? And that was what I wanted to do.
Did you know anybody that were involved with it other than your father, who was, a first responder to that situation, obviously? But did you have any other touchstone to the community?
Yeah, so I didn't know any of the actual parents prior to this happening who lost, or spouses who lost a loved one. I didn't know any of them, and any of the kids. I was a little older than the class. I had just previously graduated high school, literally right before. I did know other parents in the community just through channels, friends of friends, friends of family, from living out there for so long, and my family's still living there. So I spoke to a friend of ours, And she got me connected to everybody who was there, and I really appreciate her for doing that. But word got around, and slowly but surely, I ended up knowing all of them, and they trusted me with this story, which was incredible.
Which is incredible, and your storytelling on it is really interesting on how you wove that together. What was your process when you were really attacking, how to, I don't want to say design the documentarian concept of this film, but how did you go about laying this out?
Yeah, well, the most important thing for me was I wanted to come there with really no agenda. My agenda was to tell their stories. I didn't want to come there telling my version of their stories. I made it a point to make sure that it was theirs. So in the interview process, I think, was really where that was able to shine through. So come to editing time, the story really just told itself. I went there and through the interviews, I had them tell their story first. No questions asked. You tell me what you have to say. Like, what's on your heart? What's on your mind? And poured their hearts out to me. And, as we started the conversation, kept going and going, and we got more comfortable, and, more stories came out, and being able to have that really authentic, casual conversation of trust and understanding is, I think, where we got the most truthful stories out, and where they were able to share their heart and share, the memories of their loved ones, was through that casual conversation and just speaking what was on their heart.
When you started editing this, what was your approach and your working relationship with the editor when you started cutting this series of interviews together, and the footage that you used?
Well, I'm the editor, so the relationship with the editor was quite good.
That's right. That's right. You did actually edit this. That's right.
I did, however, have two mentors who were incredible, who are well versed in the industry, and without them and their guidance, it would have been a much harder road for me. So I really appreciate them guiding me, telling me which scenes need to get cut and what needs to stay, and having their extra voices, among my own in the editing room was super, super helpful. But for me, I just made sure that I told the stories that, when I went through and I watched all of the footage, I was sitting there and I was like, what is speaking to me? What are these stories telling me? How am I feeling? Like, when I'm watching these, am I feeling something? It's like, what's the most powerful part? And that's what I want to take, and that's what I want to tell. And it was so easy in that way, because the stories were so genuine and so raw. So the stories really told themselves.
Well, this was a long process for you. This was a 3-year process. Can you tell me about, why it took so long and that process?
Well, I remember when I first started, I was talking to my one mentor, and she was like, "Get ready, this is going to take a while." And I was like 3 years, what? And then here we are now, 3 years later on the festival trail. Like, I was like, you were right. And she's a mentor for a reason. But it was super tough. A lot of it was, trial and error, learning as we go. Like I said, I knew a lot of information growing up, and I, took a lot of classes prior to when I was younger, and understanding how to edit. So I didn't go in there with absolutely zero knowledge, but I'm still young and I'm still learning, and this is still my first project. So being able to do it and do it right. And I needed to make sure, especially with the subject matter, that this was done perfectly. There was no room for any margin of error. So telling it as truthfully as possible, and telling it as honestly and with the feelings of these families in mind, really, I think, is what took the longest part, is because I wanted to make sure that I was doing them proud. I didn't want to tell a story that they didn't want to tell. And I had to make sure that was what was happening. And that's why it took so incredibly long, because I had to do it right. I had no option.
Well, now after living through this 3-year experience, can I officially say that you've got the bug?
Absolutely.
that now are you still loving acting? Is this, something that you're going to continue with and incorporate this into your tool chest?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. I adore acting. Acting is my love and my life and my baby, but I am also a creative person. And so I don't think I have to ever do one without the other. And so as long as I'm able and happy to work, I'm happy to be an actor all day, every day. But also, I'd love to tell stories more. I'd love to direct more. I love to write. I love to edit. I love to produce. Whatever it is, telling stories, giving, true stories a voice, getting stories that I believe in out. in any of those forms, I'm happy to do it. And I enjoy every minute of it. I enjoy telling stories as an actor, as a director, as a producer, as an editor. Each of those roles are so important to me in my life. And I expect to learn more as I go along.
Do you see yourself mantling a feature? Do you want to stay in that doc world? You want to go over into directing a narrative, maybe acting, directing, producing, hybrid?
Absolutely. I think there's really no limits on what I am gonna do in my life. I have all the faith that I can
I know, because you're
try and
just
try.
so old
I'm just so ready
already.
to try it all. I'm just so ready to try it all. I absolutely would love to direct a feature. I absolutely would love that. I would love to, be able to put all of my energy now into that and to act in it. Are you kidding me? That'd be so fun. Like to be able to tell stories through and through. That's incredible. Like every aspect from beginning to end, as tough as it is, to do that. It's a long process, clearly. As hard as that is, I love to do it, and I want to do it. And so you can definitely expect more of that, more of hats, more hybrids from me, doing lots of things in the future for sure. I would love that.
Have you started to venture into that narrative writing? Are you currently writing a feature?
Yeah, I'm currently writing some stuff. I have a couple of ideas, a couple of fun ideas. I bounce off creative people around me. And I'm just inching my way into learning what that looks like and what that world is, because that's also another world too. Writing's a whole different apparatus that's, I haven't quite tackled yet, and I want to. So I'm currently working through that. And I'm still doing the festival route with this documentary. And so there's a lot of things going at once, lots of irons in the fire, but more is more. Something's got to strike once, and that's what I'm really excited about.
Well, she's talking about her documentary called Stop the Bleed. So for those that are listening in, you can tap on in and locate where you can see this. As she said, it's currently going through the festival circuit, and it's showing at the in Florida currently.
Orlando International Film, yes, in Florida, yeah, at the Orlando International Film Festival on May 26th at the Enzion Theater in Maitland, Florida. It'll be playing at 10 a.m., so I'm really excited about that.
That's great. Now, so you've now finished this. Let's just go back in time. You've now finished this, and you are starting to attack the festival circuit, and we are hit with COVID. And COVID shuts down the planet, and you've got this wonderful baby that you want to, send out into the world and have it start walking and talking. So what was your approach on trying to get that doc out there for those to see?
It's really hard, for sure. It's a lot harder than you would expect. It's a totally different world that I have never been in before. This is so new to me. And even people who are around me aren't necessarily well versed in the festival route, because it's a whole beast of its own. But I'm learning slowly but surely. The thing that's difficult about it, though, is that because of COVID, I'm not able to go in person for many festivals. And because of that, I can't meet people, and it's harder for me to talk to people and explain to them why this project means so incredibly much to me and to so many people, and why I wish that more people could see this, just because the true storytelling is so important. And so navigating that through COVID has been an uphill battle for sure, but I'm excited about it, every angle of it. And I'm so excited to be doing this festival in Orlando, that now I'm able to do something in person. And I hope for more. There's lots of festivals that we're hoping to hear back from, and we're hoping to be in. I really am grateful for every platform to be able to tell my story.
Right. Well, festivals in different states and countries are starting to open up on the ground. Some are hybriding at this point. Some are still staying virtual. So I think it'll be a wacky, wonky world for 2021, the remaining, and kind of clearing out into 2022. But you have had success going through, even in a COVID land of festivals. You've had success. You have screened. You've won awards off of this wonderful doc that you are showcasing, which is phenomenal. So how are you looking at distribution for this doc?
I would just love for that to come to fruition. Again, that's another beast that, as me, I've been on the front of the camera, not necessarily on this side. So this part of post-production and distributing and letting people see is a world that I'm not 100% knowing about yet. I would love for it to be on a platform where people are able to see it. That is so important to me. And I think it's so important to the families too, because you don't see a story truly from the story of the perspective of the parents and these families and the spouses who lost their loved ones in a tragic event like this. And that's what I think makes this documentary so special, is because it is so different. It is so untold of this side of mass shootings. You don't see that type of story coming out of these horrible events. So distributing it would be incredible, and it'd be so amazing. And I'm hopeful that that is something that is happening in the future as we go through the festival route. If that's something that that will come through for this documentary, because I think it needs it. I think the parents deserve that more than anything.
You mentioned this type of, narrative story. Did you find that more? Did you discover the story more in editing than in the interview process, or while you were going through the interviews, did you go, "Oh, wait a second, aha, here's the story"? Yeah. So let's talk about that experience.
100%. So you hit it the nail right on the head with that one. I was sitting there in the interviews, and these parents were talking so truthfully and so honestly to me. And as soon as I'm sitting there, I'm like, I know where this is going. I know how this is. I know the story that needs to be told. As I'm sitting there in their homes, in their children's bedrooms, talking to them personally, one on one. I knew the story that needed to be told. I saw it unfolding with each interview as it went on and on and on for each person every single day. And I just saw the pieces coming together. Like, in my head, I just watched it go from here to here to here to here. And the timeline came out, and it showed itself. I wanted to make sure that this documentary was about the victims, that we remember them, because they were all incredible and amazing people that deserve to be remembered, and that we don't focus on the shooter. Hardly do you ever remember the victims' names. You always remember the perpetrator, and it's terrible that that is the case. And I wanted to make sure that it was an important story to tell, that these people who lost their lives, they're living through their loved ones, and that was the story itself.
You also used some existing footage. So being a new filmmaker in this new genre, what was that process, going through it for the first time, going, okay, now I need footage, and how do I secure this, and is there rights, and what do I do?
Yeah, thankfully I had some contacts with people who worked at the sheriff's department who were able to give me some surveillance footage that was like able for me to use, which really actually, helped tell the story of what was going on without being graphic or violent, which I don't believe it needs to happen. I mean, they know what happened in there. That's not necessary. The most important thing is to tell the stories of these people. And also a lot of kids that I know, a lot of people that I reached out to in Parkland, it was their videos, and they were wanting to tell the story just as much as I did. And so it was really community effort getting all of these things together. The whole documentary as a whole was a big community effort. People who truly wanted to help, who wanted to, be a part of telling this story in one way or another, between getting audio equipment, between my camera guys, between, having mentors, all of those things, compilation together really has helped bring the story to life. And it's because everybody cares so deeply about what was being told.
Did you have any community sponsors or funding sources, or did you do it all yourself out of your own, love of the addiction?
It was love of the addiction. It was. I was really grateful, like I said, to have a lot of people want to help and volunteer. And a lot of it was volunteering their time. I remember I went to go get sound equipment, and I was like, okay, so what is it going to run me? Tell me the total. It was going to come out of my pocket, whatever. And the guy who runs the sound place was like, go rent it, go, just however many days you need it. I want to be a part. Like, let that be my help to you. And I'm like, just the pure community that you can feel that came out of this such a tragic event is incredible. It's phenomenal. There was not really funding at all. It was really all me. My mentors helped me here and there, getting me a camera, which was awesome. But it was all like favors and truly just people wanting to be a part of telling this story. It wasn't, a bajillion dollar production. It was really very, very independent. So That's the truth.
That's okay.
Crazy.
That's okay. I mean, this is your first big, leap into this genre and this form of filmmaking. So, with that, a lot of independents have to come out of pocket to achieve that. With the scripting, pieces, and there weren't a lot of scripting pieces, did that come in during your interview process? Did you go, oh, like right there, I kind of need to do that, or was that more in the editorial process? How did you approach that?
It was more in the editorial process. As I came home and I watched all the very, very many hours of footage of myself, I actually have a notebook that is like my little baby. It's filled with everything that has to do with Stop the Bleed. It's got interviews, names, phone numbers, shot lists. It's got like time codes. It's got whatever. So what I did is I had this notebook and I sat down and I wrote like at the top. So say I was watching Lori Ahadeff's tape. I watched Lori Ahadeff's tape, and as I watched it, I would mark the time code on it. I'd like write the quote that I wanted, and I went through like that with every single tape that I had, every single B-roll that I had. I like marked it. What do I looking at? What I need. And as I went through, I started highlighting what I put in there, and crossing out what I decided was ready to get cut and what was important. Started what I needed, and it was very much something that only I would understand. If you looked at it, people would be like, girl, this is chicken scratch, but I saw it and I knew it, and it was really my own language.
If you had the chance to go back in time, is there anything that you would do differently, or would you look at maybe the next doc you create of, I would approach this, this, or I would do this differently?
The only thing I would say as far as differently, I love the story that is told. I love the relationships that I have made through this. Having the support of the families is incredible. So nothing as far as that way, but technically, like as far as technical learning, oh, this is how you do this on Premiere. Like this is an easier way of doing that. That would probably be my only regret, saving me a little bit of time here and there, understanding the technical aspect of it post, to be perfectly honest. But as far as the documentary itself, I'm very proud of it. And there's not much that I regret just besides having more knowledge,
Yeah, exactly. The technical knowledge sometimes, will slow people down if they are going quickly to that learning curve, trying to up the swing on the learning curve. So, where do you see yourself in your filmmaking over the next 5 years, for all your fans that are listening in who go, oh my God, I watched her on blah, 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 and I've been following her since she was 5.
Yeah, for sure. Well, in the future, I hope to have another movie coming out. I would love to write. I would love to hopefully be, I would love to be on a show. I would love to act. I would love to do it all. What I would love to do really is to be able to act and direct even television. I'm not afraid of anything. I want to do it all. Really, I am. I'm so young and I have that on my side, and having the ability and so many options to do so much with my career is really what's amazing. I mean, I'm just 21. I still have so much life ahead of me. I would love to be on a show, direct a show. I would love to produce my own project. I'd love to write my own feature. I'd love to direct that. So millions of things are coming. I have so many creative ideas just jumping around in my head that I want to just put onto paper or put onto screen. And so I hope that that's what's coming through for the next 5 years.
Well, if you could have any one successful filmmaker out there to have a one-on-one conversation with, who would it be?
J.J. Abrams. J.J. Abrams. I adore J.J. Abrams. My love in life is Alias, way back when TV show. And the production of that was just so incredible that you have a story about an amazing, strong woman. Come on, sold. Like, let's go. Like, that's the story I want to tell. Like, I have questions for J.J. Abrams. I want to know what he's done. And the coolest thing is that I was an actress on his show on Lost, because he executive produced Lost. So that's like my coolest moment for me.
Well, then you're going to have to reach out to him and say, hey, listen, can we have a coffee or lunch? So if you're listening, so if he's listening
so if you're listening, JJ, I'm ready. Whenever you are, you tell me time and place. Let's go.
Are you seeing some of these new ideas in your head? Where are you getting these from? Are you getting inspired just from life, reading newspapers? Where are you getting these inspirations for this project, for the future projects?
Yeah, for my future projects, thankfully I come from a family of very creative people who are very funny and very exciting and have lots of really interesting ideas. And um, I talk to them every single day, and I'm in their house right now, and they're out there, and they have really amazing ideas. And so bouncing each other on off each other creatively has
Mm-hmm.
been amazing. My sister is also an actress, and so she's been doing that her life as well. So having her as a creative person to talk to has been amazing. So everyone that's around me in my family who's so incredibly creative has definitely been an inspiration for whatever I plan to do in my future. And my mentors too. They're obviously so super creative and know my way all the time. So all of those people that I surround myself with have brought me inspiration.
So are you going to tap into your sister and say, "Hey sis, come over here and let me
Yeah.
direct you into a feature"?
Absolutely, that's the plan. That is, my sister is incredible. She is so talented. You've probably seen her on stuff before. She's amazing. She is definitely somebody that I would love to direct. She's got the talent. She can cry a drop of a hat. That girl is so talented. It's ridiculous.
Well, what
I'm number one fan.
your number one fan, but she's not paying you for that.
No.
Right, exactly.
Maybe I should.
Right. So, what do you think is the most important aspect of directing, especially coming from the acting world?
Yeah. Just accepting mistakes and knowing that there is a story to be told and having collaboration and being able to talk to the subjects. For me as an actor, I do very well when there's an amazing director who's able to communicate very eloquently with his actors, with his crew. Like that's or her crew. That's really important for me as an actor. So as a director, I wanted to make sure that was something that I did as well. I made sure that I was super communicative with all the people that I interviewed, and I think that's what made the most honest content come out of that. Is because there was such an open communication, and I have such great relationships with all those people, even still, and that I think is probably the key to having a great production. And being a solid director is being solid in yourself and making sure that you have great communication skills with with the rest of your team.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, definitely that translates into just leaps and bounds of that artistic expression. What would you give as a piece of advice to another creative trying to break into filmmaking?
This business is tough, 100%. If you will love it 1,000,000%, where there's nothing else in the world that you can do it. But do it with all of your heart. Do not shy away. You have no time, especially if you're young. Do everything that you can, every part of your ability that you can to push your creative juices flowing. Endurance is the best. Persistence will prevail. And that's what I could say for my best advice. Be persistent. Believe in yourself, 100%.
I always throw this out, but tell us a dirty little secret of Hollywood that you wish somebody had said, "Hey, listen, kid, do this."
It's who you know. It's who you know, really. You better get to know some people, because if you don't, it's going to be a much, much, much harder uphill battle. That's the truth.
It's so true. You know, your friends you can call on, and it really is who you know, and then the talent kind of comes in and supports it, afterwards. Working as a child actor and working up the ranks as a child actor, how was that as an experience, as a life experience for you?
I learned so much as being a child actor. It's probably the best experience, really. I enjoyed every waking moment of it. I loved it, from the audition process to, callbacks, to the heartbreak, to being on set and learning incredibly much. I have probably the best thing that I've learned from being a child actor is being able to communicate with anybody about anything, anywhere, anytime. At such a young age, like having, the expectation of an adult. You're on set, you're working, you're learning, and doing that from the age of 5 has taught me how to be a great professional in this business. And that skill is something that is really tough. You have so many people in this business who know always so much more than you do in every facet. So being able to communicate with them, to learn more from them, and just absorbing, being a total sponge in your environment is something that I learned at such a young age. And it's been quite exciting. I had amazing people surround me on set. I've had the best memories, and that's the coolest part.
And would you work with child actors on a feature.
100%, 100%. Kids are cooler than you could imagine. I love kids in general, and I think that there's a lot of talent when you're young. There's a lot of creativity from kids. Kids have the best imagination. We should learn from our kids. We should learn from the younger generations. I think that they're smarter than we are. They're playing with their dolls and they're telling stories as they are then. So let's learn from that.
Excellent. What's your last piece of advice to anyone listening in, acting, directing, being a documentarian?
Good luck. Be honest, be truthful, tell the stories that need to be told, and believe in yourself.
Excellent. I want to thank you so much for being on Best in Fest. And for all those listening in, we're on all the podcast platforms. If you want to submit your film to the film festival, you can do so on Film Freeway. Search on La Femme International Film Festival or go to our website at lafemme.org. Don't forget to like us and review us on iTunes. And do you want to shout out some of your socials for people to follow you and follow the Stop the Bleed and where that's going to be screened in the future?
My personal Instagram is at emmy.rae, EMMY.RAE. And then for my documentary, all socials are at Stop the Bleed Doc.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being on Best in Fest. I want to thank our lovely, beautiful gal, Emily Evan Rae, for coming on and really telling us about the history of this really wonderful documentary called Stop the Bleed. So if you have a chance and you're in Florida, go see it. And if not, hunt it down on the website or follow her so that you can find out where you can see it next. Thank you for listening to Best in Fest. Thanks for coming on.